Right. Is everybody able to hear me well enough? See me well enough? Fantastic. I'm going to ask you guys to keep yourself muted today. And if you could use the chat box to give feedback or make comments, that would be really helpful. I'm going to have some questions for you, your thoughts and feelings about the cover. Super excited. So today is really about revealing the book cover for the source code. And this is the first cover that I've designed myself for this book. It just felt like I completely had to design it myself. So I've been working on it for quite some time now. And of course, there's still time before publishing. But I wanted to, before I talk really anything about the book, I wanted to share the title with you or the cover with you and get your initial impressions. Like from the cover, what is your sense of what the book is about without me explaining what it's about? And so let me see if I can bring it up right now. Everybody able to see that? Perfect. Now there's a lot of dimensionality in the cover. It had to be very simple, but your first impression is really, really key. If you can write it in the comments, that would be very helpful. All right, so we've got the first comment. Love the color. I see a top of a pyramid. Feedback. Knowledge about self. The map to the maze of the subconscious. Start of the structure of society and the human mind. Looks like a maze. The bottom has direction. Catches my attention. So I'm assuming we mean by the bottom, if we look at the bottom pyramid, you see a downward arrow. Of course, that directs the eyes toward the subtitle. Connect to the center of the universe. What gives you that impression? Connect to the center. Is there any particular aspect of the cover that gives you that particular feeling? Floating on nothing. That's a very interesting observation. If you go into peripheral vision, as we learn in the Warrior's Meditation, and you take in the whole picture, you'll see layers kind of come out in a 3D effect as if it's floating on energy or something like that. I like the juxtaposition of the maze and the pyramid. From my perspective as the creator of it, so the pyramid gives structure, but and so we can almost see like it's an overt structure. That's like your mind, your conscious mind. But then you've got the maze. That's the bottom half of the pyramid would be like the subconscious mind, and it's pointing down. That's the path to go into the subconscious, going deeper into the subconscious to reveal something, right? Somebody noticed the smiley face. Do you see the smiley face in the picture? There is, in the maze, you'll see a smile. And the dot in the center, which draws the eyes first, if you look around it, there's a light there. It looks kind of like a muzzle or a nose. And then you've got the O and the D that appear as eyes. Can you see that? And the C and the E, maybe ears. When I first put it together, I was kind of had the image of my dog, Layla. She's a cute little fluffy Chinese crested dog, a rare version that has hair. And so that's that there's actually a face in there that's looking back at you as you look at the face, as you look at the image. Confused by the subtitle, Infinite Trials. Does anybody have a sense of what the subtitle means, or is that just generally confusion? I mean, fair enough. It's meant to be a little bit abstract, to get a little bit of a mysterious feeling to it, because we don't want the left hemisphere of the brain alone to interpret this, but the right hemisphere as well, which is a little bit more ethereal. But what I meant, practically speaking, is in your life, you experience endless trials. There's endless variations, endless changes. All of these things your life is unstable on the external level. Even the mind is unstable. But there's one truth. The truth is that which is unchanging. And then, of course, a book about you. So that one truth is a book about you. But there's more than to you than meets the eye, much more than meets the eye. And now in the pyramid, so there's a downward view from the top of the pyramid. But if you look at the pyramid, for example, at the maze, at the very arrow in the very center of the maze, you'll notice that it's actually that there are three triangles that intersect right at the arrow, because there's a 3D effect. So it almost creates like the maze itself it has a peak. Can you see it? Light in the darkness, fourfold dimensions. Yes. You see it floating on the energy. I'm so happy to see that you see that. I see the light and the dark of the psyche. That's right. So we've got the yin and yang quality in the picture. So the opposite halves of the pyramid, you'll see the lights and you'll see the darks. Light, translucent energy, lots of dots making up the image. Looks like molecules. Yes, that's kind of the idea, like molecules or sand or granules or something like that. If you look at the text itself, you'll see that the text is made up of the very same granules of sand or molecules, atoms, maybe, right? Everything is made up of the same essential substance. The light is made up of those granules. The pyramid is made up of those granules, the dark and the light, all of it, my name, all of it is made up of the same substance, just like life is made of one common substance. What is that one common substance? That's what the book is about, in a sense, and you are at the center of it. So the purpose of the black dot is to draw attention to the center. Of course, nothing will work for everybody. In this case, it doesn't work for you, but it's to draw attention to the center. And I'm wondering if it has that effect when you first, if you just look, kind of gaze at the cover, does it draw your eyes to center? Yeah, so I feel a pull into the black spot as if direct route, softness. I did get something of the smiley face. Fantastic. Softness, the lessons of life. Yes. Continual struggle and growth. I love the feeling of a book about you. What's the most interesting thing in the world is you. I mean, you all are absolutely amazing. Every single human being is an absolute miracle of existence. And so there's nothing better I could write about than a book about you. There's some mystery. There is some mystery, but I thought Infinite Trials was very accurate in the description of life experience that ideally would help reveal one truth. That's the feeling I was getting at. I see a shinobi warrior. That would be what we would typically call a ninja. You are infinite reality. Yes, you are infinite reality. That's infinite trials, one truth, and you are both infinite and you have the trials. That's the key point. And this is the source code. So we see reality. What we see of reality is really just the surface, or almost like the image of it. But underneath of it, there's a code or a law. And that's what I mean by the source code. I feel the juxtaposition of the body in the spherical awareness source. Yes, that is a key. So we've got the physical and we've got the transcendent. I feel the top half is text heavy and the bottom half is more open. So, because of the source code is in the top half of the pyramid. Yes, that's the top half of the pyramid, in a sense, is the logical mind. It's information. It's the overt. Whereas the bottom half of the pyramid is the covert. It's the unseen. That's why it's that way. If I spread the words out over the bottom half, it loses the symbology, unfortunately. Yes, there's a labyrinth quality to the lower half of the pyramid. Seeing it from the aerial view. The black dot symbolizes what I describe as the nexus point. The nexus point is the point it's at the very essence, or the very origin of the universe, between nothingness and somethingness, so to speak. It's also it's the nexus between all realms, we might say, all dimensions. And that's kind of what the black dot was meant to symbolize. So that's kind of where the cover goes. And I wonder if you would, just to get a sense, like when you first looked at it, what was your initial like unthought reaction? Was it a negative one or a positive one? Or maybe you could rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. That might be helpful. And be very, please be totally honest with me. If it's a flop for you, then we'll just accept it as a flop for you. But any feedback you could give on that. It's my first cover. So because it's my first cover, does it look professional? Yeah. Right. All right. So let's see, we've got rankings here. Stop the share. I'll stop the share here. All right, fantastic. So we've got a little bit of feedback. We've got 886. Intriguing, though maybe a little Illuminati. Oh, what gives the Illuminati feeling? That's interesting. I didn't get that impression myself. Got an instant 9, got a 10. Warm and soft. Made me smile instantly. Yes, looks professional. And the impression is initially positive. Freeing and supporting, positive and powerful. Draws you in a 10. Artistic, which means to me that one can look at it and gain deeper meaning. Initial contact is smooth and evokes a sense of wonder and amazement, makes one want to explore. Was there a particular reason for the golden color? Yes. It's an interesting phenomenon, actually. I kind of don't want to describe this in a sense, but I will. Let me try to find the right words for this. It's a little bit challenging to find the right words for this, but I have a tendency to have mystical experiences. It's just a sort of a common thing as part of my life. And the deeper the mystical experience, what ends up happening is we start to see almost the inner realm. And at the deepest inner realm, you have essentially existence and non-existence simultaneously. That's the nexus of being. So we can almost say existence would be white. It's like all colors. It's there. It's visible. It's tangible. Then you have the non-existence, which is dark or black. Right? It's nothingness. And the truth is actually both simultaneously. But when these two overlap, so to speak, it doesn't produce gray in that mystical experience. It produces gold, which is a little bit counterintuitive. And so that's what this gold is about. It looks professional. It looks awesome. It makes me want to buy the book. And honestly, I'm choosing on what books I buy, on what I get, especially since and covering it. You give clarity and thoughts, meaning behind everything on the cover. You did great. You did great. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you all so much for your feedback. It looks like, generally speaking, people got a sense for what it's about just by looking at the cover, that means that the cover speaks for itself. Regarding infinite trials, one truth, it could be infinite tribulations, but that's a really long word, and it starts to be, there's so many syllables it kind of doesn't roll off the tongue well. Somebody asked what I meant by trials. And I'm wondering, if you guys could just simply type yes or no here, did you get that meaning initially? Because understanding that people will have different associations with the same words. If you got the meaning initially, if like 90% of people got it with meaning initially, then we're doing great. Nothing will work for everybody, and that's not a slight against anybody. That's just how reality works. It looks like we got lots of yeses. Yes. Okay, there's lots of yeses coming in. Oh, not immediately, but rather quickly afterward. All right, I thought it of tests or lessons. Now it could be infinite tests, one truth. That reminds me a little bit too much of school. I kind of was going for a rites of passage sort of thing, but intuitively, I feel like this has to be a 4-word line: infinite trials, one truth, and then under that, a book about you. It was originally other. I've tried many other variations. One I sent you guys versus email. No point talking about it now because we're beyond that. But I was kind of going for a rites of passage, sort of this, that life is like that. And if you view life and everything that occurs to you as rite of passage, it's quite liberating. And I was looking for infinite trials, one truth, that trials and truth, the two T's, or the same, something that sort of rhymes in a sense, right? Could trial sound like going to criminal court? It certainly could. Um, but it seems like for most people, that's not how they interpret it. And any word that I put in there will be interpreted by potentially anybody as meaning something different than I intended, because that's just the way the brain associates things. Um, it depends on the audience you're wanting to reach for a draw or a flop. I'm not sure what that means, for a draw or a flop. Could you explain that one? I'm not quite sure what that meant. Trials is okay for me. I felt trials means lessons, yes. And ancient knowledge too. Yes, and that's part of the reason why pyramid, because pyramids symbolize a structure that's stable over time. Like it's a super stable structure, and it kind of gives a feeling of antiquity, ancient knowledge, right? All right, so now I'll just open it up to any questions you might have. It could be about the book. I think you guys already have a sense for where the book's going, but briefly I'll describe. So going through my own trials with severe health issue paralysis that I put up a YouTube video a couple of years ago where my body was kind of falling apart. And what I'm going to teach here is the primary means by which, although it wasn't intentional to recover, but by trusting the body, which is what I learned from that experience, to trust the body, suddenly so many revelations occurred that show a profound, I mean, like a seamless connection between how we perceive reality and how our immune system works. And this book goes into that connection so that our perception of reality affects our health. Our perception of self affects our health, not just on a logical level, but at a feeling level. And this book is really about getting to that feeling level or subconscious perception, because at all times in the subconscious, there's a dream going on. That's a lot like a mystical experience. We're just usually not conscious of it. I just happen to have a tendency to be conscious of it, which isn't a sign of my virtue or anything like that. It's just something it's been the case since I was a child. When I was a child, I didn't understand what was going on. Now I see what the communication is about. And the clearer the subconscious sees self and reality, and the more that communicates with the conscious mind through feeling, and the more that our conscious mind starts to follow what I call this code. There's an underlying code of reality that plays in the psyche. We could call this the psychology code, or the psychic code, or psych code of the psyche, or code of the spirit. There's many different things you could describe this as being, but it is a code that's not. Every time you diverge from the code, it causes disharmony within the mind and the body. And that disharmony starts to stick. And the more we do this, the more it sticks in the body. And then it starts to weigh us down, and it ages us quicker. It inflames us. It does all kinds of things. It muddies our mind. We start to feel more and more alone versus feeling all one. We've got some questions that have come through since I've been talking. Sure, we appreciate and have experiences with these symbols and your journey. A person who has not practiced or has a little awareness might miss this treasure. It's all likely. I'm kind of betting that this cover will hit people on a subconscious level. They might not know what about it is drawing them in, and that will get them to look a little further, and then it'll give them a chance to explore it. And in many cases, I suspect that they will just be drawn to it. But we'll see. I mean, I don't want everybody drawn to it. You just want the right people that this message would hit home with, right? A book that sells to everybody is a book that has no message. So a book that has a message is meant for specific people. Could our minds keep bringing back haunting memories of situations of the past to show where the emotion needs releasing and where the lessons have not been realized and fully integrated? Yes, that is what the mind does. So the mind haunts you with areas of imbalance, or what I call psychic debt. I mean, psychic debt not in some sort of um, in the sense of like mediums and channels, but psychic debt as in like psychological debt. You've broken the law of mind and body, or mind and consciousness. It's the same thing. It's a law. And every time you break this law, there's a debt that you that accrues in the body and in the subconscious, and your mind will bring these thoughts up of disharmony that are hints as to what needs to be addressed. And you could spend your entire life meditating. If you don't address this stuff, it doesn't go away. You can't just sweep it under the cover. It will haunt you in your dreams. It will haunt you in your daily life. And there's a reason why our minds, we can't just be silent. Like when you clean up of that psychic debt sufficiently, you could just choose to be silent. Like I just be silent for 10 minutes and it's just quiet. It's just beautiful. It's quiet, serene, peaceful. Your body has a chance to recover during that time. But when the mind's constantly moving on, constantly chattering, it's very stressful for the nervous system. It's very stressful for the body, and it's hard for the body to recover. And this exacerbates or speeds up the aging process, causes inflammation in the body. It's a tremendous thing. But moving on with this message, I was shown in a psychedelic plant journey that the lesson will be shown to us time and again until we fully integrate the lesson and release the disharmony. Yes, that is a true statement. I was told that this integration needs to be fully embodied, as learning is still at the intellectual level. Yes, that's why I call the TEM the Total Embodiment Method. One will know when the lesson has been embodied because the haunting memories will stop. That is exactly right. Let's see, infinite problems, infinite solutions. That was the one of the subtitles. I think that's one I sent via email. The problem with problems and solutions is it maybe creates too much of a left hemisphere or a left brain logic type response to it. And so there were some suggestions that some of you sent to me through email that got me to change the subtitle to Trials, Infinite Trials, One Truth, which if you guys could let me know, what do you think? Infinite problems, one solution versus infinite trials, one truth. I'm just, which do you have a preference? For you might just write problems if you prefer the ones with problems, truth if you prefer, or trials if you prefer the one that with trials in it. So we got trials so far, trials. All right. Trials and solutions. Oh, that's interesting. Trials and infinite trials and one solution. That's a possibility. Problems have a negative connotation. I believe that's probably a fairly common thing, especially people that have been studying forms of spirituality where it's said, you don't have problems, you have challenges, right? It's a sort of attitudinal shift kind of thing, right? All right. Seems the vast majority goes with trials, but let's get back to questions. Yeah, so there's a question here. Are there new exercises to use in our daily lives that are not yet in the form of a course? Yes. So on my website, I have a series of courses that increase in the depth of the subconscious exploration. So we've got the Warriors Meditation course, for example. That's the base foundation meditation method that helps you get calm, grounded, and centered. And we've got body awakening and rejuvenation. That's a deeper level still, deeper level of grounding capacity, deeper level of awareness capacity, deeper level of inner alignment, deeper level of inner awareness. And then we've got the next one after that, which is the Spirit of Truth. And this one is quite a powerful leap into the subconscious mind. The problem with the Spirit of Truth is the information, the essential process needs to be conveyed to a much larger audience. The problem with the Spirit of Truth is it requires people to go through these other steps, quite a long process to get to it, because there's safety issues, as far as I'm concerned. So if we look at the subconscious mind, it represents, of course, all the time in our daily lives, but it also represents in our dreams. And so that primarily represents in our dreams. So we have our normal perception of life, which is in time. Events happen one after another. We have a logical progression, like you know why you're in the store. You didn't just suddenly appear there, like in a dream. You're talking with your friend and you're at school, and then suddenly you're at a store, and that friend has morphed into somebody else, and then you morph into them, and in the dream it all feels normal. Right? That's how the subconscious mind sees things. It doesn't see things through the realm of time. It sees things symbolically. It sees things through associated meaning. Problem with the subconscious mind is when you start to become conscious of it, if you're not sufficiently grounded, if you're not sufficiently centered, if you're still trapped in a lot of moral judgments against yourself, a lot of guilt and a lot of things like that, and you're unwilling to be really honest about it, you start to open up that subconscious mind to your daily window of perception. There's a risk of losing your sanity. There's a risk of dysfunctionality. Now, for the vast majority of the people, that's not the case. I warn about that with the Spirit of Truth course. But this is a way, this book is conveying a method that is much safer, that gets us to the unity quality, an embodied unity quality, without the danger. And so it's of course, a book cannot convey lessons that there's a lot of information you can convey through sound and video, through demonstration, that you can't convey in a book. That's just the reality of things. So, they're essentially different things. I have to teach the book in a very different way than I've taught otherwise. So whether you've taken the courses or not, I believe you'll find this book very, very helpful. There's actually, when my body was going through what I call the trust experiment process, my body was breaking down. I had a realization, a mystical experience that conveyed that essentially there's some distrust between the mind and the body. And this is something that, technically speaking, I've experienced. The body has its own intelligence. I've experienced this many times in martial arts training, when I was in Japan with my teacher, and here on my own. But I didn't realize how much further it could go. And I didn't realize that I had still issues of unresolved distrust. And so the way forward for me was to trust the body's process, even if that meant going into paralysis, that this was an experience the body may need. And I have to actually be totally like samurai. There's totally like, I'm going into this. I'm going into the fear. I'm going into paralysis. If that's what it is, I'm turning into it. I'm not seeking any escape. And I'm completely trusting the body. And it was a process of, basically, it's been a process of 2 years of developing deeper and deeper trust within the body. And as the trust between the mind and body, this communion increases, the clarity and revelation increases. And so this is one of probably 3 books that will address different aspects of the same essential thing. If I include it all in one book, it's too much information. It's overwhelming. So a book needs to have a through line that's clear and that's not too cluttered, so that you could get the most digestive quality out of it. And this is one that focuses, its center of its focus is on the psychological element, how we perceive, how we see, and how to tune what I call psychic tone or psychological tone. Our body has a kind of default level of happiness. You'll see this in people's lives. They just sort of, doesn't matter what happens, they have, something great happens to them, but after a little while, they're right back to where they were before. Something miserable happens, they come back to where they were before. Some people have a happier psychic tone, and that some people have a darker psychic tone, but it's pretty consistent through the whole life. And there's been a lot of psychological studies to show this consistency. And what I've found is that, as opposed to what the psychological studies have suggested the psychological tone is in fact modifiable, in fact greatly modifiable. You can learn to tune it. You can learn to raise your psychological tone so that your default way of feeling in your body is elevated. Now, this elevation of tone will not remain if you haven't mastered the ground. If you're easily excitable, right? You need to keep the ground. So this book is largely about shifting perspective to that which is in alignment with the actual essential you that's beneath the identified you. And then once there, raising the psychic tone so that essential you can actually embody through the body, through the conscious mind. So it's not just something you experience at peak moments, but it's a default way of living your life. It will not manifest, not the right word. It will not embody through the body and the mind so long as that psychic tone is at too low a frequency. So we're kind of like raising the frequency. That's what this book is about. And what ends up happening, at least for me and others that I've been working with on this, is that the inflammation goes down. The immune system starts to modulate properly. Health starts to return. Like, it was such a drastic change when I had this realization, and then found a actual functional, practical, simple way to practice it every day so that I could see the results. Now, the key point, it cannot be the intention of a person going into this to heal the body, because that's not trust, right? That's not trust. That cannot be the motivation, though it probably will be for a lot of us. The motivation has to actually be just love for the true you. I mean, true love, true appreciation, true respect, acceptance, trust for the essential you, which is not different than the essential you and everybody else. Like, the essential me and the essential you are identical beings. We're one shared being. And when we get out of the selfish mind and tune to that essential nature, it's a positivity beyond imagination that requires a powerful ground. And so this book is going to introduce a lot of the things that I haven't been able to teach before, and certain things that I have taught, but in fresh ways that will maybe illuminate the previous teachings in ways you hadn't seen them before, so you'll get more out of it. Yes, someone was talking about curiosity in the finish of the last sentence. So the curiosity, yes, the curiosity is the key. Like an honest, sincere curiosity, a real desire to actually commune with, to have a true relationship between the mind and the body and the mind, a true respect, understanding that the daily window of the perception is just the tiniest part. I mean, it feels like it's in charge, but really, if you really watch your life, subconscious mind, it's really pulling the strings. It's really pulling the strings. But if you don't watch, you'll think that the egoic mind is in control of everything. That's simply not the case. Not that it doesn't have any influence. It certainly does. But, the subconscious mind, that's the ocean which that little boat is swimming in. Right? So the ocean of awareness was renamed, what was it? Does anybody remember what I called it? Truth and Psychic Debt, I think is what it's called on the website. I haven't run it recently because I've been going through such a profound process. It's a lot of work for me to run a course like that, because I have to mentor, say, 20 people at a time who are going through an intense journey into the subconscious. And I have to essentially connect to their process. It's like I'm carrying a lot of extra weight, which I haven't been able to do while I've been going through my own process. So I'm hoping to be able to open something up here coming soon. I mean, ideally, for those who would like, there's a lot more that I can convey through video and sound. Like, if it could be in person, that'd be great. But nobody has a month to spend with me. but like a 6-month course where we meet like twice a month for an hour and a half, each session, um, and explore these principles, explore the source code and the stuff that I have that's going to be coming out in these other books as well as things that I can't, that just don't fit into books. And in one giant mentoring process, essentially, to greatly expedite your process if you're interested in that sort of thing. And that's a possibility. If you're interested in that, maybe send me an email. If I run that course again, I won't run it with prerequisites. It would be flat out from zero. I want people to get this source code. I want people to get the law of mind and consciousness. I want people to get that communion, the ability to explore the subconscious safely from zero, no prerequisites, right? That's what I'm aiming for. Just as this book doesn't have a prerequisite, but that we will be able to get to an equal depth without having to go through a whole bunch of other courses to get there. Does that make sense? Are any of you interested in that sort of thing? If you are, let me know, either here or by email. If there's enough interest in it, I'll do it. It's a lot of work on my part, and so I just want to make sure there's actually real interest in it. If there is, let's do it. But I'm thinking it would be twice a week versus the previous one, which was once a week, and you would not be required to attend live. That would be the difference. The reason I had people attending live before, like it was as a requirement, is I have to actually see, for safety purposes, what's going on, right? But this should be much safer. Of course, if you don't attend live, how do you ask questions? If like nobody shows up, I'll just okay, done for their session for today. So presumably some of y'all would show up. But anyway, let's see. Back to questions. The Nexus on the cover is an equanimous state to withstand all problems. To be able to ground you through, to center you through all challenges. Without this ability to tap into the Nexus point, you're blown around in the wind. It's like, on the playground when you were a kid, what did they call those roundabout things? I always forget what they're called, but we had them when I was a kid, and the kids would get on it and someone would spin it, and kids go flying off, and it was a nightmare in retrospect for kids' injuries and stuff like that. But if you just go right to the center of it, the spinning doesn't have an effect on you. The ability to tune to the Nexus point is like a human superpower. It's incredible. And the more you live your life from that perspective, from that root, that truth, the less perturbed you are, the more stable the mind is, the more stable the body is. And the body can then, all these extraneous processes that are going on, stressing and straining the body, can quiet, and the body can recover, right? I can't say that it will recover from every possible disease or anything. I'm seeing what I'm seeing. I'm just saying what I'm seeing. It hasn't been tested to the full realm of what it can, what can be healed. But the key point is, if the mindset is to heal these problems, then your mind is not on the Nexus point. To get to the Nexus point, you have to give up selfish aims. Instead, go love truth, love yourself, love the essential you. That's where you go. And the rest is just trust and just let it happen. Like if you can just get out of the way, that's the most efficient. The willful way is inefficient. It's noisy. If you look at the universe, if you look at how energy transfers, the more inefficient the wire, the more heat, the more light, the more noise you get. The more efficient the transfer, the less heat, the less light, the less noise you get. Perfect transfer would be invisible. You wouldn't see anything. Energy would transfer from point A to point B without any hint of a transfer, because there's no loss of energy. The more willful your mind is in the process of getting to the Nexus point, the more energy is lost. The more noise, the more friction. The light that I'm talking about is friction, it's heat, it's inflammation. You see it? And so what we want is a calm, centered, trusting mind that's rooted in a calm, centered, trusting body. So with the slightest of intention, you're there. Being fully you, while still functional in this world. That's the goal. That's the process. That's the reality. That's actually the reality. That is the truth that is you. There's something, this little, hamster wheel mind blocks awareness of that. In a recent meditation, I saw that I have rejected, repressed, and bullied my inner child to such an extent that my inner child has turned demonic in nature. Yes, this is what happens. That is the psychic debt that I was talking about. It just creates tremendous disharmony, and it can become like an actual inner enemy. Like, you can become split inside, where there's this, for lack of a better term, demonic like presence that is the mind that is like actively attacking you. This usually happens with people who have introverted personality types and are highly agreeable. It's more sensitive. It's usually going to happen with them in that way more easily. So just be aware of that. Though it can happen to anybody. Usually for people that are on the disagreeable side or extroverted, it happens outwardly. It happens towards other people, right? And they might not notice what's going on because it's happening to other people. But either way, you're suffering. You just may not know it. And you're definitely limiting, like your potential is like vast. And your potential is just pushed down. Like the possibility for helpful insight, because you're essentially at war with your own body. The mind is at war with itself, with the body. And that's not helpful to anybody. I also read in a book about the archetypes that one of the child archetypes is the precocious child. Okay, so I'm not going to go into archetypes here. This is actually deeper than archetypes in a sense, because archetypes are still a story. And so we have to get beyond the story. Though those archetypes exist, and a lot of the archetypes are actually this sort of the mind trapped in itself. We're going to go beyond that. And we would have to address that, of course, but the aim is to go beyond it. Now, someone's asking a question about the trickster. That's something I talk about in courses that people are not prepared for here, so I'm not going to talk about it here. But I will briefly just mention what I mean is this aspect of the mind that's essentially out of control, that's unhelpful. It tricks the mind. It deceives you to such an extent that you are not aware of the essential nature, the vital life force at the core of your being, the truth that's in everyone and everything. Do you feel that establishing a relationship, reconciling, and mentoring with the inner child is an important step for spiritual maturation? By inner child, I mean the part of us that is yet to mature. So, yeah, when we use the word inner child, we've just created an image for it, but it might not always appear as a child in the subconscious. And so that's teachings from another perspective. What I'm saying, but it is helpful if we look at maturity and immaturity, or immaturity and maturity. Basically, the way we react to life negatively is an immaturity, right? And there has to be a kind of psychological or spiritual maturity to be able to have a functional, healthy, loving, accepting, respecting, appreciating, and trusting relationship between the mind and the body, so that there's no more interference or resistance between the two, so that the nexus point can emerge in a body. I find that people who generally go to the inner child type perspective are blinded by the image in their mind of an inner child, and they're not necessarily able to be really honest about things. If it works for you, fine, but that's not how I teach, because I find that tends to be the case. If we just see it as immaturity versus maturity, it's easier. Is it reflecting reality or not reflecting reality? We move towards that which reflects reality. We do not feed that which doesn't reflect reality. If I did a course, it would do far more than cover this. So the question, is there a course covering the content of the book? If I did a course, it would cover far more than the content of this book, because it's a different medium, video, so I can do much more. So it would cover probably the content of all three books that I'm currently writing. This is the first book. It's gotten to a point where I'm getting, within the next 3 or so months, it'll probably be finished. So I'm talking about this book right now. The others, they've got more, they need to mature some more. But as far as teaching the course goes, that's in a sense for me much easier. It's more difficult. It's far more difficult to write a book than it is to teach a course, right? I'm sure that goes without saying, right? I found it is possible to temporarily change that psychic tone, but as you say, it will be fleeting unless the work toward more permanent change is done. And that takes dedication, willingness to grow, and a consistent application of an appropriate process. Darian got it exactly right. You need a precise functional process, and you need to be able to follow through on it daily, right? And if you do that, it'll start to seep into your sleep. It'll start to seep into your whole life. Your whole continents will change. Your perception of reality will change in a more functional way, and your psychological tone will raise. And the degree to which it can raise is directly reflected to the degree to which you're able to ground. And so that's an essential part of the training. I think I talked about that before. We raise the body's frequency by dislodging physical blockages. Do you find it helpful to focus on physical health to create a stable foundation before addressing the psychic? Unhelpful, both need to be done simultaneously. Ultimately, one of the books, so this book is really focusing on that psychological element. The other book one of the other books I'm currently working on is focusing on the physical element. A lot of things that have been revealed to me through this process are actually fresh and new. Have not been, there aren't other books on that teach these things. So one of the books is specifically dealing with the physical quality. And ideally you would do them both simultaneously, but not everybody will do them both simultaneously. And it's not probably helpful to read two books at the same time, right? If I had to prioritize between the two, getting the psychic quality, the psychological quality, the perception, and that practice going first will make it easier for you to follow through on the physical. Only doing the physical, people just tend not to follow through on it, right? You have to actually address this sort of inner element. Now, in reality, it's like you start, your first step is the psychological, the second step is the physical, the third is the psychological, the fourth is the physical. It's sort of like walking in reality. It's not like you do one completely and then the other, right? It's just reality doesn't work that way. So when do you expect the book to be published? I'm really hoping within the next 3 months. I mean, I started writing this book in the beginning of January. I've been working on the cover for a long time because I had to get the cover right before the content of the book could emerge. It's completely opposite of how I normally write. Every book for me has its own life and its own process, and I can't like think my way through it. It doesn't work that way. It's a trust process. And so I knew in my entire body, I had to have almost it had to be almost complete enough that I could write the book. And so I've been spending probably the last 6 months, like almost completely working on the cover and just writing a little bit here and there. Most of that writing had to be discarded once the cover was done because I could then see the content is not exactly what I thought it was. The through line is a little bit different than I thought it was. Once the cover was effectively done, which is where we're at right now, which was about January, I could then just like write like crazy. I mean, just every day I'm writing multiple chapters. So I think we're up to chapter 24 right now, but it'll probably get pruned down. I'm trying to, it expands and then you have to contract it, expand, you got to cut away. It's this refining process that if you don't do, it's just, any book that doesn't go through that process is not fun to read, no matter how helpful the information in it could be. But I'm hoping within the next 3 months. Okay, the nexus on the cover is an equanimous state. Oh, we already read that, didn't we? How to anchor into the nexus more and more. That's what this book is going to be about. I heard a doctor say that the repression of anger leads to the betrayal of our authentic selves and results in mental and physical issues. When children are told, "Good boy, girls don't get angry," the child hears, "You are not loved if you get angry." So develop the adaptations and repressions. So develop adaptations and repressions to their authentic self, which leads to mental and physical ailments. There's some truth to that, and there's some not. It's more nuanced than that, because your emotional state is not the true you. Your level of maturity is not the true you. Anger is not the true you. The true you is beyond all of that stuff. The little s self you, the one that wants a specific thing and didn't get it and gets angry, that's the one that that to be socialized does need to get itself under control. Repressing the anger is not helpful. Saying you're a good little boy or you're a little bad little girl, that is not helpful. That you're essentially classifying someone as good or evil according to their behavior as a child, and that creates a horrific psychological debt in the child, because they view themselves as being completely different than they actually are. They start to view their self-worth as connected to your opinion of them. That is really, really destructive. So instead of telling them bad girl, good girl, that kind of thing, good boy, bad boy, that kind of thing, we mentor them through whatever the challenges they're currently having. Like if they're having an anger issue, we mentor them towards patience. One, by us ourselves actually showing patience. Two, by disagreeing with dysfunctional behavior. Just allowing a child to throw a tantrum is not healthy for them or anyone. Try it. Go into a store and just throw a tantrum yourself. What's going to happen? It's not healthy. It's just not a healthy option. So we mentor them to other options. The reason they go to throw tantrums is because, one, it probably worked to manipulate you in the past. And so it works. You've probably given into it. That's a key point. And two, because it lets them vent their anger. But it's sort of a psychopathic approach. Now, fair enough, at a 2-year-old, they don't have a better strategy, right? They don't have another option necessarily. But as they mature, they mature into possibilities that we can convey to them. And the best way to convey it, of course, is through our own behavior, but also verbally. There's not a problem with creating boundaries and disagreeing with behavior that's going to be harmful to the child. If you don't address these harmful behaviors before a child is 4, they're probably going to continue. I mean, how many people have you known that can't control their temper, that are super manipulative, that are antisocial? It's because it wasn't disagreed with when they were 2, 3, 4 years old. Repressing it isn't exactly the answer, though. Any energy that's repressed becomes toxic. Redirecting and instructing and mentoring is the way. And that will require that we ourselves have clarity as to what the truth of the individual actually is, the nexus point. And this is not a statement against society, because this is all society knows is the way it has been doing things. Or all society knows is what maybe new theories that psychology comes up with that may not be in alignment with the unified nature of reality, the true you. Right? I mean, if you just do a study of psychology and the history of psychology, you find they got all kinds of theories all over the place. There isn't really a through line of clarity there. That's just how it is. I mean, they're doing the best they can with what they have. You need a new context in order to find a technology that will work, that's in alignment with the essential you, we, me, right? It's all of us. Oh, thank you. Someone shared merry-go-round. I'm way behind on the comments. Pardon me. We'll be signing off soon. I know we've gone a little over. Oh, no, we haven't gone over yet. We still got a little more time. I hope everybody's enjoying themselves so far. A thumbs up if you are, thumbs down if you're bored out of your minds. Please be honest with me. Great opportunity through the book. Ground zero, a good place to start all the time. And as you stated, without risk. Yes, that's the key point for this book, is how do we get there without the risk? I haven't really been advertising the Spirit of Truth course. First, in my opinion, it's an incredibly powerful course. So powerful that it can be a little bit scary. It's so powerful. I haven't been advertising it, and I put the price a little bit high in a way to kind of keep people away from it who are not really courageously ready, but not arrogant. Honestly ready, but not arrogant to face that inner darkness. Yeah, that's been a challenge. I made it because it had to be made, and I just have to trust that the right people will take it. And hopefully the people that are not really ready to go there will wait until they're ready. But also, I have to be constantly in a very stable, clear space, not dealing with my own process, to be of use in your process as you go through that course. So I'm thinking about possibly running that course again, but maybe having there's 4 parts to it, having like a live meeting as we go through, like maybe people go through it as a group. And you have a month to get through one part, and then we have a live meeting and we answer your questions or deal with any issues or fears or concerns, and then run the next part and kind do it as safely as possible. That's something I've been thinking about. If you're interested in that, you might let me know. All right. There's some questions I'm going to omit. There are questions about psychology and stuff like that. My book isn't about traditional psychology. And I don't want to disparage psychologists and stuff like that. Everybody's doing the best they can with what they have. I mean, if you look at your own life, you're probably doing the best you can with what you have, are you not? How many of us are going to raise our hands and say, I'm just doing as bad as I can? Most of us are not like that. We really are trying to do the best we can, and we just may not have the means to do a lot better than we currently are. And I know that that's true of my life. Let's be honest. And so I don't want to go too much into talking about psychology as a profession or whatnot, because I believe that they're doing the best they can with the perspectives that they've been working with. They have a whole history that leads up to this moment, just as you have a whole history that leads up to this moment, and you're not free of that history, right? Every moment of your life, every thought you've ever had influences you in some way. And so that's just the way it is. What would you say about the goal to be the steady point, not only for my own stability and silence, but to help others to be calm? Is it to create more harmony for those around me? But I can also see the egoic drive. It is necessary to let go of this need. Is it necessary to let go of this need to truly reach the nexus point? When I was younger, I really wanted to help people. And boy, did I not help people, because they're so arrogant. You think you know the answer for people, right? I thought I knew the answer for people. Maybe that's not true. I mean, the nexus point isn't my answer. It transcends me. And it's not an answer, it's a beingness. Yes, you probably won't be able to sustain the nexus point with the attitude of trying to help people. The only way to get there is just love, acceptance, appreciation, respect, trust for self, and the essence of being, the totality of being. It doesn't mean blindly trust other people. That's called gullibility and foolishness. Just as you have been untrustworthy in your life, maybe because you've been judgmental and untrustworthy in your life, there's going to be some people who would think that they were stupid to trust you. And maybe they would be stupid to trust you. We all have relationships. We've all betrayed people. We've all betrayed ourselves. How do we stop doing that? Stop betraying. How do we stop betraying is the question, right? And what does betrayal mean? This is what we get into in this book, right? It's a whole art form in itself. It's a whole depth of realization in itself. And it's a path that each person has to walk on their own when they want to, and only when they want to. It's not something you should do. See, if I'm helping you, I'm saying you should do this. I'm giving you advice. But how do I know that it's actually how do I know you're really ready to walk this path? How do you know I'm ready to walk this path? And if you introduce someone to this path, like you kind of pressure them into it or tell them they should do it, and they're kind of they sort of have a following tendency and they do it, they're not going to be ready. for the dragon down in the depths. You just led them to their butchering psychologically. Why would you do that? So maybe get yourself right and trust that getting yourself right creates an atmosphere that would be helpful to others. That's my approach, right? I don't go into this with the thought I'm trying to help people, because boy, that's icky. Like, who am I to help people? Like that in that way. So all I'm this book isn't my teaching. This book is literally a teaching of the nexus point. Being in the nexus point and then writing it down on paper, what comes through, and then looking back on it later, because when you're writing it from that perspective, you're not writing it for grammar, you're not writing it for spelling, you're just trying to get things out before you forget, right? It's just almost like the right hemisphere is telling you something extremely deep that the left hemisphere needs to write down to reflect on later. It's like there's this transfer that goes on. But ultimately, there starts to be more and more of a communion. And this book is written from that process of communion. Does the nervous system perceive ownership and identification every time the word my is used? For example, would the nervous system claim ownership over Richard if I say my teacher? I mean, that will be up to each person, but the more accurate, I mean, that's just, if you consider me your teacher, you're being respectful in this case. You don't own me, right? The nervous system isn't that stupid, right? Your nervous system knows you don't own me, right? However, many people do treat their teachers if they own them. I just don't accept students that do that, right? So we have to use language. I have students, they're my students, but I don't mean it in an ownership level. I mean, there are people that have dedicated themselves to studying what I have to teach, and they respect me as someone who's got more experience than they do in that level. But it's not an ownership. If it becomes an ownership, that's just the dark or shadow aspect of self playing a game. And just notice it, maybe disagree with it, not allow it to happen, right? Change the way you perceive the person. It's not a problem with the word my. I mean, you can't survive in this world without using the word my, right? So it's an issue with associations and a desire to possess. The word my isn't the problem, it's the desire to possess that might be the challenge. You see it? The desire to control. And we do need some amount of control, but it's like surfing, or martial arts, whatever. You're finding this balance between flow and control. And if you don't get that, sailing a ship, sailing a boat, for example, without any control, you're just lost at sea. It's like, this is not a statement against control. Just flow means lost at sea. There's a balancing act going on, right hemisphere and left hemisphere. If we get that balance right, we go to the nexus point. We kind of live in the zone, so to speak. All right, let's move on here. What would the course have? Would the course have anything that those of us who did the year-long course didn't learn? Yes. We'd probably be getting into a lot more work with the immune system, a lot more work with balancing the body, realigning the body, learning how to communicate with organs and things like. There's a lot of things that we probably get into that are not in the year-long course. It would be a different course. It would just be a completely different approach. So there'd be some amount of overlap, but a very different perspective on things. To me, many spiritual groups and teachings seem to suggest burying one's head in the sand and ignoring what's happening in the world. That all one needs to do is work on changing themselves, and then the world will change. However, if this attitude is adopted, would not tyranny rule? There have been many examples throughout history where tyranny was stopped by a few individuals speaking against injustice. Yes, I mean, the human mind. See, I think a lot of those teachings, and I won't name any specifically, but they come under the assumption that you are an actual complete individual, and that's just not the case. It's like a it's like a pyramid. Where does a pyramid stop? Actually, at the earth, right? Pyramid is connected to the earth. The earth is the pyramid. The pyramid is completely made up of earth. The earth is completely made up of the solar system, sun matter, which is made up of the galaxy, which is made up of the universe. The top of the pyramid is the little individual self you think of as you. You're going to bury yourself in the sand without realizing that your mind actually spans the entirety of that whole thing I just described. What is it that's burying itself in the sand? And what is the sand it's burying itself in? Yes, of course. If you're in a married relationship and you bury your head in the sand when things aren't going well, that's not going to be a healthy relationship. You need negotiations. Now, hopefully, you can have them respectfully through love, acceptance, appreciation, and trust. But if you avoid the negotiations, all it means is there's no relationship. That's all it means. So this isn't advice, but I'm just saying that if you truly are connected to the world consciously, it's natural that you're going to say, no, this isn't the appropriate way to behave. I don't endorse that particular behavior. Let's not cut people's heads off, right? Just ignoring it will result in eventually you getting your head cut off. A lot of these teachings, those types of teachings come from monastic orders that essentially protected by their governments, and so they don't worry about it. Right? They disconnect from everybody. But you, in a sense, are everybody. Who are you disconnecting from? Yourself. Because the essential truth of you is in everyone. The thing that's looking out your eyes is me. The thing that's looking out my eyes is you. That's how I see it. So now we might not want to go around trying to correct everybody's life, but there is a point where you say, hey, that might not be so healthy. Let's stop that. Let's not cut off people's heads. Right? Do you feel educating oneself on the workings and corruption of the world is important? I often hear people say to ignore the ills of the world and focus on conquering one's own mind. However, this also feels like allowing tyranny to take over. Basically, an extension of the previous question. It just depends on your level of stability. If you're not mature enough to remain stable in your own mind, and you clearly see that you're becoming more and more negative because of watching constant news about the world, and you're kind of getting high off of it, that's probably not very productive for you anyway. You might not be mature enough to handle it. And in which case, work on your maturity. Right? I talk about that spiritual maturity earlier, right? The reason I pay attention to world news isn't to understand the specifics of what's happening right now so much as to understand the underlying principle of manipulation, malice, control, self-absorption, power. To understand how those things come together through the narratives that are presented by the government and the news. And all those things are effectively presented by the government and the news as ways of manipulating, not for the good of the people, not really. You don't see too many people in politics cutting their own salaries. You don't see that very often, do you? You don't see them going to fight in the war that they just started. You don't see them sending their own children to fight in the war they just started. If they really cared and they thought the war was worth it, that's what would happen. They'd be at the front lines, wouldn't they? But that's not what happens. So, anyway. All right. Let's see what else. I know we've gone over. Some people are signing off. Please feel free to. Thank you for coming. Those of you who have been here, we'll answer a few more questions. And then I'm almost at the very last question right now. It seems like human nature to want to help people. So it is recognizing a deep desire not to try to help. It doesn't take effort. I recognize that it is unhelpful to control other humans or direct their path. There is a practice there is a practice to continue to let go of unhelpful thoughts. Will that erode the desire to help? Well, the desire to help isn't actually a desire to help. That's the first thing to recognize. Desire to help is infantilizing the other person. It's assuming that they're not capable of guiding their own lives, finding their own solutions, moving forward. Now, I mean, like if someone's, stuck on the side of the road because of a flat tire, going by and helping them, it makes sense if they don't have a tire. I mean, we're talking about like directing other people's lives. There's a kind of pity that's going. We're really, in a lot of ways, looking down on them. It's extremely arrogant. And we may be looking down on ourselves. Like we may have given up on ourselves a long time ago and expect other people to help us all the time. It's a kind of false compassion. Like I can't solve other people's problems. Now, someone might ask me a question, I might give them an answer, but it's not advice. It's like if they want to, they will do it, but maybe they'll find a better way. Like my teacher, one of the greatest things he did for me is like he didn't teach me. He didn't teach me. He's like, I'm not going to teach you. I'm going to demonstrate. You got to find this out on your own. He discussed this when I was about middle level. I don't teach. I don't explain how things work. You got to find it on your own. And the reason why is because I hope that you will find something better than I am doing. If I tell you my method, you will just mimic my method. And then the art will never improve. And he was right. He was right. If I'd just done his method, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. Right? Because I found another way to accomplish the same aims, but that also penetrated the psyche much more deeply. That penetrated the human experience much more deeply. So it's not just a martial art anymore. And that's what he wanted. And when he saw that happening, he was so grateful. And he was right not to teach me too much. Sometimes when we're helping people, we're in a sense hobbling them, or they're allowing themselves to be hobbled. So it's not like if someone asks for help and they actually need it, that's one thing. But if our essential motivation is to help people, that's a little bit, be careful of that. And last question, what about making suggestions on things that helped me? For example, this helped me, that you may find it helpful as well. Yeah. I mean, I invite people to things. Like, if this feels right for you, you might find it helpful. Sure, great. Right. But you're not like you should do, which is a moral statement. You're putting like a pressure on them, right? But even more importantly, like going back to a question that came earlier, is if my motivation is to get to the nexus point to help other people, I can't get to the nexus point. If it's to help me, I can't get to the nexus point. The only way to get to the nexus point is to simply love the nexus point, to get there and stay there. Any other motivation, if it's not just love, respect, acceptance, appreciation, and trust, you can't live it. Not possible. So that's it. It's just it's very simple, but it's also walking this path will challenge every aspect, every assumption, every ideology, every, belief you have. You'll have to sift through them because they're what are preventing you from being fully embodied as your true self, is what keeps you feeling separate from other people on a spiritual level. It's what keeps you feeling alone versus all one. What keeps you from seeing nature as an expression of you-ness, of feeling companionship wherever you are, even if you're physically not with anybody else. And not because you're making up some scenario in your mind. I mean, it's just at a feeling level. And it's so healthy. And it's a beautiful place to live. And if someone finds that interesting, well, then here's an invitation for you. That's all. All right. Well, thank you all so much for coming today and fielding your questions. It's been a heck of an adventure for me. I really enjoyed it. And I'll be giving you an update on, as the book kind of comes a little bit closer, maybe I'll share a little bit more information on it. I may open up a crowdfunding service to help fund the book. I've not been working for essentially the last 5 years. It's a little bit rough to self-publish. And so I I might put up a crowdfunding thing if anybody would like to support that. That'd be wonderful. And you'll be listed as contributors in the book. Thank you so much, and talk to you soon.